Welcome to Mr. Evil, the most terrifying corner on YouTube, where secrets and unsolved cases hide in the dark. Here we dive into the world of puzzles and brutal murders and bloody crimes, where we reveal the most horrifying cases and the latest investigations without leaving any terrifying details undiscovered. Get ready for the journey through the most evil aspects of our world, where deadly secrets await to be revealed. Subscribe now and join us in uncovering the secrets hidden in the dark, and don't miss a moment of this terrifying journey through the shadows. Scary story. In the heart of the United States lies Tennessee, a state known for its picturesque landscapes and rich history. However, lurking within its shadows is a terrifying tale that has haunted its residents for generations. Brace yourself for a bone-chilling account of a terrifying ghost and the horrifying events that unfolded in this southern state. It all began in the small town of Whispering Pines, nestled deep within the forests of Tennessee. Local legend spoke of a ghostly figure that roamed the woods at night, its mournful wails sending shivers down the spines of anyone who dared to venture near. The ghost was said to be the spirit of Kate Batts, a woman who lived in the area in the early 1800s. She was accused of being a witch by her neighbors, who blamed her for their misfortunes and illnesses. She was tormented and harassed by the townsfolk, who called her the Bell Witch 11 after the family that she allegedly cursed. According to the legend, Kate Batts died in 1820, but her spirit did not rest in peace. She returned to haunt the Bell family, especially their youngest daughter, Betsy, whom she tortured with physical and mental abuse. She also terrorized anyone who visited or lived near the Bell farm, making strange noises, moving objects, and even attacking people. The Bell Witch was never exorcised or banished, and her presence still lingered in the woods, waiting for new victims to torment. As the story goes, a young couple, Sarah and David, decided to spend a romantic weekend camping in the woods. They were both college students from Nashville who wanted to escape the city life and enjoy some nature. They had heard of the legend of the Bell Witch, but they did not believe in such superstitions. They thought it was just a silly story to scare children and tourists. Ignoring the warnings of the locals, they set up their tent near an old abandoned cabin, which was rumored to be the former home of Kate Batts. They did not notice the sign that read "Beware of the Bell Witch" that someone had nailed to a nearby tree. That night, as they sat by the campfire, they heard faint whispers in the wind and saw eerie lights flickering in the distance. They shrugged it off as the sounds and sights of the wildlife and continued to chat and cuddle. Soon, the whispers grew louder and the lights drew closer. They sounded like a woman's voice, saying, "I am here. I am the Bell Witch." The lights looked like glowing red eyes, staring at them from the darkness. Sarah and David felt a sudden chill and a sense of dread. They realized that something was wrong and that they were not alone. They grabbed their flashlight and looked around, trying to see what was out there. Suddenly, a ghostly figure emerged from the darkness, its ghastly form illuminated by the moonlight. It was a woman, dressed in a ragged dress, with long, tangled hair and a pale, wrinkled face. Her eyes were hollow and bloodshot, and her mouth was twisted into a snarl. She had a noose around her neck and blood dripping from her wounds. Sarah and David froze in terror as the ghostly apparition approached them with outstretched arms. She reached for them and said in a raspy voice, "You are mine, you are mine, you are the Bell Witch's children." The couple tried to flee, but the ghost pursued them relentlessly through the forest, its haunting cries echoing all around them. With each step, the woods seemed to grow darker and more sinister, as if the very trees were closing in on them. They ran for their lives, hoping to find a way out or someone to help them. But they soon realized that they were lost and that the ghost knew the woods better than they did. She was always one step ahead of them, cutting off their paths and cornering them. Finally, exhausted and terrified, Sarah and David stumbled upon the ruins of an old church. Desperate for sanctuary, they sought refuge within its crumbling walls. But as they entered, they realized too late that they had stumbled into the ghost's domain. In the dim light of the church, they saw the ghost hovering before them, its ghastly visage twisted into a grotesque grin. She said, "Welcome to my home. Welcome to my grave. Welcome to the Bell Witch's church." With a blood-curdling scream, she lunged at them, enveloping them in a cold, suffocating embrace. Sarah and David felt a sharp pain as the ghost's nails dug into their flesh. They struggled to break free, but the ghost's grip was too strong. They felt their breath leaving them and their vision fading. They thought they were going to die, and they wondered why this was happening to them. What had they done to deserve this fate? Why had they ignored the warnings of the locals? Why had they chosen to camp near the old cabin? As they were about to lose consciousness, they heard another voice, a familiar voice, a voice that they had not heard in a long time. It was the voice of their friend, Alex. Alex was their college roommate, who had gone missing a year ago. He had been a cheerful and adventurous guy who loved to explore new places and try new things. He had been the one who had suggested that they go camping in the woods of Tennessee, where he had heard of a mysterious legend. He had said that he had found a map that showed the location of the old cabin where the Bell Witch had lived. He had said that he wanted to see it for himself, and maybe even meet the ghost. He had said that it would be a fun and thrilling experience, and that they should join him. Sarah and David had agreed, thinking that it was just a harmless adventure. They had packed their bags and followed Alex to the woods. They had not told anyone where they were going or when they would be back. They had thought that it would be a secret and exciting trip, just the three of them. But they had been wrong. They had never reached the cabin or seen the ghost. Instead, they had encountered something else, something worse, something that they could not explain. It was a creature, a monstrous creature that looked like a giant moth with glowing red eyes and huge wings. It had swooped down from the sky and grabbed Alex in its claws. It had flown away with him, leaving behind only his screams and his blood. Sarah and David had been shocked and terrified. They had tried to chase after the creature, but they had lost sight of it. They had searched for Alex, but they had not found him. They had called for help. No one had heard them. They had been alone and afraid. They had decided to leave the woods and go back to the city. They had hoped that Alex was still alive and that someone would find him. They had hoped that the creature was just a hallucination and that they would wake up from this nightmare. But they had been wrong again. They had never left the woods or gone back to the city. They had never seen their families, or their friends, or their lives again. They had been trapped in the woods, in a loop, in a curse. They had been the victims of the Moth Man. The Moth Man was a legendary creature that had been sighted in various places, especially in West Virginia, where it had been linked to a series of disasters and tragedies. It was said to be a harbinger of doom, a messenger of death, a predator of souls. The Moth Man had taken Alex and had fed on his life force. It had also marked Sarah and David and had bound them to the woods. It had made them relive the same night over and over again with slight variations. It had made them face different horrors, different ghosts, different nightmares. It had made them face the Bell Witch. The Bell Witch was not a real ghost or a real witch. She was a manifestation of the Mothman's power, a projection of its malice, a tool of its torture. She was based on the legend that the Mothman had learned from the locals and that it had used to lure and terrify its prey. She was the Mothman's puppet, and the Mothman was her master. The Mothman had watched Sarah and David and had enjoyed their fear, their pain, their despair. It had played with them and had toyed with them and had fed on them. It had kept them alive, but had not let them live. It had kept them together, but had not let them love. It had been a year of hell, torment, a year of madness, and it was not over yet. Sarah and David heard Alex's voice, and they looked up. They saw him, standing in the church, holding a lantern. He looked pale and thin, but he was alive. He smiled at them and said, "Hey, guys, I'm so glad you're here. I've been looking for you for so long." Sarah and David felt a surge of hope and a flicker of joy. They thought that Alex had escaped and that he had come to save them. They thought that this was their chance to get out, their chance to be free. But they were wrong one last time. Alex was not their friend or their savior. He was their enemy and their doom. He was the Mothman, and he had taken Alex's form. He had tricked them, and he had trapped them. He had brought them to the church, where he had planned to end their misery and his hunger. He said, "I'm sorry, guys, but this is the end. This is the final night, the final horror, the final feast. I have to do this. I have to finish this. I have to kill you." He raised his lantern and threw it at the floor. The lantern shattered and the fire spread. The church was engulfed in flames, and the Mothman laughed. Sarah and David screamed, and the Bell Witch joined them. They burned, and they died, and they were gone. The next morning, the townsfolk found the charred remains of the old church and the bones of 3 people. They did not know who they were or how they got there. They did not know what had happened or why it had happened. They only knew that it was the work of the Bell Witch and that she was still out there waiting for new victims to torment. Thank you for joining us for this spine-tingling story. We hope you found it both thrilling and thought-provoking. If you enjoyed this video, please consider participating in our channel by subscribing, liking, and sharing it with your friends. Your support goes a long way in helping us create more engaging content for you. Goodbye, and may you always tread carefully in the world of the unknown.